Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. At Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, and London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful March the 26th, 2020. Rondo Deportes, Big C is still out mining for gold. We know he's going to find the real McCoy. He'll be back in the saddle soon. It's all fair and love and war. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, Big C Sports is powered by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic from 3,000 miles away, and he'll do his thing. And I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. Especially, I love taking that pause. This time of year, everybody is focused on the start of Major League Baseball. And a lot of people are a little bit crestfallen, but we understand why we don't have baseball right now with the crack of the bat. I want to make sure that we take the time, as we always do, to pay homage to our military, our Veterans Crisis Hotline. Not only can it help military, it can help a lot of people now. They're experienced at helping veterans and their loved ones. It's 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can hopefully get some help. I really love bringing that message to the sports universe. Really appreciate doing that. Also, very happy about launching a real estate TV show for listing real estate property, and we can do your loans. That's going to be the spring of 2020, and the goal is simple: to recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV, just like McDonald's, just like car dealerships, just like sporting teams when they're actually playing. They put their properties on TV too, and those properties have names like the Golden State Warriors, the San Francisco 49ers, the Denver Broncos, the Atlanta Falcons, the New York Giants. It's all fair and love and war. We want to do the same thing with real estate. And think about this. If you're looking at refinancing your property, rates are historically low. I mean, it's never been this low in the history of this country. You can do a refinance for your loan. The Big C team can also help you with a purchase loan. There's so many people that want to buy or refinance their properties. We can do that too. That means you don't have to leave your property. If you simply just want to buy another home, or if you want to list a property, you get more exposure when you put it on TV. You get that with the Big C team. So I really appreciate that. Man, there's a lot going on in this world of what we do with the world of Big C Sports. I know that the Corona stimulus package, it was signed by the Senate. They're just waiting for the House to do it, and they're expecting that's going to get done. I believe they're saying by Friday. It has to get done by Friday. A lot of people have to know that's so important. Also going to talk about sports and politics, how it misses. You know, it misses the mark sometimes depending on who you are, but it also hits the mark, just like baseball, depending on who you are too. Tonight would have been the San Francisco Giants playing the Dodgers, opening up in the National League West. And as we always say, the score is 5-4, bottom of the ninth. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run! And then the crowd goes nuts, and the Giants or the Dodgers win, depending on who you want. I guess if you're having the crowd going nuts, it would be the Dodgers tonight down there at Chavez Ravine. But I love bringing that levity to Big C Sports also. Also, Steph Curry. You know, I love the name Curry, and that's my name also. But I heard Steph Curry had a great moment this morning with Dr. Fauci, and it talked about coronavirus. and how we can keep ourselves safe. And I'll be mentioning something about that too coming up in the show. I also want to talk just a few things about what's happening in sports and also in life. This is real life. I want to make sure as we have this Big C Sports platform that we don't just use it to say, Big C, do you see how big and strong and tall and fast that athlete is, or how fast he runs around the bases? Can you see how this guy can hit the ball? He hit it a mile high. Okay, that's great. Nothing wrong with that. We all miss baseball. In fact, we all love it. But this is about sponsors. I'm hearing a lot of my brethren in the world of sports really being real. I mean, there's real talk, and then there's phony, fake arguments. I always want to make sure that we advocate for ourselves, because you only get to this level when you advocate for yourself or somebody's doing it for you. And I really appreciate that. So Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, going to talk more about her. But I want to do a little bit of a tribute to our sponsorship, because a lot of companies are going through issues now, and a lot of people are laying people off. They're still waiting for the stimulus package to come true, and we know it's going to come true. It has to come true. But for the sponsors, there's a parable that I want to talk about. It's in the Bible. It's called The Talents. It's in Matthew 25:14 through 30. You know, just like a sports score, 25, 14, and 30. Those are pretty good numbers if you're a basketball player or a football team. Outstanding numbers if you're a baseball team. But it goes like this. The score tells a story. You can tell the master who was leaving his house to travel, just like the sports teams travel before they had all been put on pause. Before leaving, he entrusted his property to servants just like broadcast companies to give you information that's hopefully accurate according to the abilities of each person. The first disciple, he received 5 talents. The second disciple received 2 talents. The third disciple received 1 talent. I equate that to Big C Sports. We don't have $1 million studio. We're not sitting 6 feet across from a desk from each other in the same studio where we have a producer and we have TV cameras and teleprompters telling us what to say. I do this extemporaneously as well as Big C when he's able to get in. The third disciple is what we've been doing. The third disciple, who went on to do more with less than those companies that are given multi-million-dollar budgets, because a lot of them are running replays, and that's okay if that's your potential. But we have a kind of a crisis in this country. It's not for everybody, so you can't ask someone to speak Spanish if they don't know it. Poquito, we all understand what that means. So the ones who were given the least amount, I'm talking to sponsors, they went on to do more with less. So what will history and legacy say about who you give millions of dollars to when you have guys giving fake arguments, fake news, erstwhile athletes coming on talking about what they did 30 and 40 years ago, and that's great, but it doesn't help people now. They're showing old replays with your sponsorship money. That's hard-earned money that goes to your shareholders. I mean, you're paying it to sports companies, and a lot of them are just giving you reruns. That's not honest work. You know what it's like when you pay somebody and they give you old work? You want new work, just like I said yesterday. You go to the market, the farmer goes to the market. You want to buy the fresh produce, or do you want to buy the produce that's 15, 20 years old? And you can Google who they are, but you're paying them anyway. So when people give you real talk, that's what Big C Sports does. It really is real because it affects people who buy your products in today's time, not 1974, not 1985, or the championship game of whatever sport in 2004. That's just important to me. For example, if you have some of the oil companies in Saudi Arabia, you know their annual revenue is $465 billion. ExxonMobil, the largest one in the United States of America, annual revenue $269 billion. I'm asking you to sponsor Big C Sports. You know who you are. There are conversations going on right now about the opportunity to have more sponsorships. And I think that's important because I want to do what's real. I really want to do what helps people. And when I talk about what Steph Curry did this morning, I was just talking about him 2 days ago. It's ironic he's on the radio, not the radio, but the internet today talking about Dr. Fauci. I'm not saying that anybody has to follow what we're doing, but I'm saying a lot of smart people do listen. The universe sets it up that way. Also talked about Mark Cuban earlier this week, and he appeared on CNN News and also some other sports shows within 2 days. Big C Sports, of all the sports owners in the universe. We talked about a man and his compassion for American people and how we need this stimulus to keep people going. Next couple of days, he's on CNN and some other sports shows. This is also, I'm very proud of this. As I was watching other people do whatever they do, I learned too. Nobody's perfect. I'm always trying to learn. But here in San Francisco, Mayor London Breeze, she said the city could see more cases spike like in New York City if residents continue to congregate with one another, which increases the spread of the coronavirus, and states may soon begin issuing fines for citizens who defy those orders. Now, this affects all athletes and fans and sports teams too, from the Golden State Warriors, the San Francisco Giants, San Francisco 49ers, even though they're down in Santa Clara, still part of the Bay Area. You have the Oakland A's. I can even say the Oakland Las Vegas Raiders because there's still some people here now that the season's been put on pause. San Jose Sharks. Everybody knows somebody. Cal, Stanford, University of San Francisco, University of Santa Clara. So many people are affected by it. You know, they cut down, in fact, they postponed the California State High School Basketball Championships, and we missed a lot of seeing what a lot of athletes work hard for. But they put health over money. They put health over playing the game that we always say. What's more important, your health or your money? And when you have the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, shut down the state for the most part so that we can try to contain this virus, listening to people like Dr. Tony Fauci. I think that's so important. So this is why I want to say Big C Sports is like the story of the talents in the Bible. We do our show extemporaneously. We do it with our higher self. I take down some notes about things so I can jog my mind with it, and then I talk. I'm not reading the teleprompter. I don't have anyone in my ear telling me what to say. But what I do say, I hope that history can say that Big C Sports actually produced good fruit that fed people. Just like going to the market, you want to buy that milk that's fresh, or do you want to buy the milk that says, drink before 2014? Well, we're 2020, so why am I watching games on sports programs about 2014 and 1948 and 2001 when they could be telling you what's important right now? Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she spoke about the 3.3 million Americans. They're sports fans too, and they have children that may be professional athletes. But think about this. Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi spoke about the 3.3 million Americans who filed for the first week of unemployment benefits last week, an increase from 282,000. Think about that. 3.3 million, that's 3,300,000. That's larger than some cities. Filed for unemployment last week for the first time. Think about it. An increase from some 282,000 claims just the week before. That's the highest ever since the United States Department of Labor started tracking data back in 1967. Just like some of those sports you're watching on TV, the replays from 1967, they're not giving you current news. They may sneak it in, but for the most part, they owe it to the fan base. That if we can say certain things like what Steph Curry talked about later that I'm going to get into, it might help a lot of people. And many sports shows are comparing athletic events from 1975, 1987. They talked about the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson game in college. That's great, but it's not going to keep people safe. The 2007 season when, they can talk about whatever programs they want to. There's no mention or hardly any mention of what's really affecting their sports fans, their parents, the parents of elementary and high school athletes, college students, or the ability to buy the products that their sponsors are paying for. Like I say, make Big C Sports your next multi-million-dollar sponsorship. We deserve it. We deserve it, and I know that, and you know it too. That's why I want to make sure that we get our message out there. I want to get into something that Steph Curry talked about because it happened just this morning. About 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time, he actually, Steph Curry, the NBA superstar, has a live Instagram conversation with Dr. Fauci. Every athlete should listen to it. In fact, every media company should listen to it. It's not ironic to me that we were just talking about Steph Curry 2 days ago. In fact, even yesterday, a lot of these multi-million-dollar athletes, $100 million contracts, they're not doing anything to help people. But I want to just say I congratulate Steph Curry for being conscientious and actually having a conversation with a medical doctor. And if people who follow sports listen, it may just save lives. It may save the lives of people you care about. That's my opinion. And everybody can Google it. This is what I'm just going to paraphrase some things that happened from it. And even more important, or just as important, President Barack Obama also posted some thoughts on it too. We're all trying to have levity and also good news. That's important. But part of that is thousands of people tuned into the NBA superstar Steph Curry's Instagram. It was a live Q&A with Dr. Anthony Fauci. He served 6 administrations, 6 presidential administrations. The man knows what he's talking about when it comes to infectious disease and how to solve these problems to get over that curve. They talked about the coronavirus on Thursday, which is today. Big C Sports been talking about it for about the last 2.5, 3 weeks now, since it became an issue in Europe, when it became an issue in China. We were talking about it. Is it going to affect the United States athletes and sports teams? And you can Google what we said. Are they going to put health over money? And some teams are still thinking about putting money over health. But health is more important. I love what Steph Curry was talking about, that he's prescient enough to have a conversation with someone that can maybe help the people that follow what he's saying. The live session was very helpful at times when a lot of people across the world, they're kind of grappling with the deluge of information and misinformation, like being ready to go back to work by Easter and congregate in stadiums by Easter. You know, The Man Who Cried Wolf, The Boy Who Cried Wolf, you know who wrote that book, and you know who they were talking about. But Steph Curry's the antithesis of that. The Golden State Warriors star asked several pertinent questions about COVID-19. You know, not one of the questions was, hey, did you see the game when the Magic Johnson and Larry Bird played and how Magic Johnson's team went on and beat Larry Bird's team, Michigan State, Indiana State? It wasn't about that. And that's okay if that's where your elevator stops. But equal time would actually help save some people. And I applaud Steph Curry for doing that. COVID-19, the disease that caused the coronavirus, to which Dr. Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, provided measured and accessible answers. Barack Obama also, chimed in. And part of the live chat, there were over, thousands of people I hear that were part of that chat. President Obama posted a wave emoji and later thanked Stephen Curry and Dr. Fauci. That's President Obama thanking an athlete, not saying fire the SOBs for being socially conscious. And you can Google who said that. That's why I'm proud of Steph Curry. Because if more people like Steph Curry with their platforms were to get, or at least invoke medical science to talk about things that can help keep us all safe, it helps our parents, it helps our grandparents, our children, our families. That's important, and it even may help you. And I'm proud of Steph Curry for having that conversation, as many other people are having arguments about who's a better receiver, Jerry Rice or Randy Moss. I can't believe you said one guy is better than the other. They could use some of that airtime to do what Steph Curry did today, which is what Big C and I have been doing really for the last 5 years, but especially with this pandemic, I just implore more media brethren to get behind that. It's important to me. I love people who are conscientious. You can pause, you can breathe, you can do whatever it takes to keep your family safe and other people. Dr. Fauci addressed the dichotomy of the extreme reactions to the pandemic in the United States, where people are either extremely frightened or they don't believe it's happening. They were just having a lot of beaches down in Florida. This month they had to close down, even just last week, because there were people saying, oh, this stuff is not real. It's just like the flu. POTUS said it's going to be over by Easter. You can all go to church again. And they have shut down Italy. The United States is only second now behind Italy for people who have fallen to that horrible disease. We got to get above that curve. So when Dr. Fauci talked about that economy, it's as if he was talking to Big C Sports. And I'm just saying, when I ask sponsors, whether it's Chevron or Exxon, whoever it is, when you're putting money behind sports people in TV shows, we're going to give you fresh food every day. You're never going to hear a rehashed program. Never going to get a replay of what we did 4 years ago. Because we want to bring it to you fresh, just like the groceries you buy for your family. You don't want to go to your grocery market and you want to buy some fresh meat or some fresh fruit and vegetables. and they say, well, we do have a box that wasn't open from 1915, right? That'd be really morbid. Or 2012. We're going to give you one that's open today. It's just delivered today on the 26th of March, 2020. You get it through the Big C Sports Cut when you're looking for that prime rib. So we have to get rid of this misconception that it will either go away or that the world is going to end. It's not going to end. We're not going to do anything that's foolish. Dr. Fauci said it's somewhere in the middle. He urged Americans. Dr. Fauci talking to Steph Curry. You can Google the conversation on Instagram. He urged all Americans, in fact, people all over the world, in fact, you can say people all over the universe, not to get frightened or intimidated by the pandemic, but simply urge them to realize that we are dealing with a serious problem. If you can do that and not shout down employers or shout down news people that ask you a question about calling this a fake news or a Democratic hoax, and then you yell at the people and tell them they're horrible reporters, we don't need that. But some of you, like Sean Hannity and Rush Limbaugh, they feed that propaganda also. And if you're dumb enough to listen to that more than Dr. Fauci, you do it at your own peril. So Curry asked Dr. Fauci about the risk of lifting social distancing and restrictions too early, like Easter, in order to improve the economy. President Donald Trump has vowed to reopen the economy by Easter against the advice of public health experts. Let me ask you a question. Anywhere in the universe, let's say, God forbid, someone you care about gets sick. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to call, hopefully, 911, or you're going to try to get them to a doctor. But not everybody would, because they have so much faith in what's called the Democratic hoax, the boy who cried wolf. They'll listen to him at their own peril. But if you get sick, I just implore you, like Dr. Fauci, listen to science, listen to the experts. Don't even listen to anything I say unless you can verify it. That's why I love giving footnotes about what we talk about. I know it's important to some people because sports to them is cathartic. They can breathe. I've had some friends telling me today the news of the world is making them ill, making them sick. Get out and exercise. Get out and stay healthy. It's so important. So Dr. Fauci said it's not all or none. He said that New York and California had locked down their cities in what was a heavy hammer, quote unquote, in his own words. Even if you lessen those restrictions, everyone should still practice some degree of physical distancing and avoid big crowds. Dr. Fauci said that. You can do that and still get back to somewhat of a normal life. I am so proud of the platform that Big C and I have, because we've been doing this 5 years against a lot of ridicule, and people have fought back and said, I can't believe you're talking about politics. Now all the smart guys that do it, but not everybody's well-read, so I understand why they're arguing about who played the better basketball game back in 20, 30 years ago, or who's the better NFL wide receiver from 2 decades ago. That's their choice. I love the fact that Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve Chairman, is saying he's going to trust in science. Dr. Fauci also answered other commonly asked questions, including if someone could get reinfected with COVID-19 and whether the virus is likely to die out in the warmer months. He said authorities have not done specific testing to determine whether the virus can reinfect those who've already had it. So you can take that and you can juxtapose that to the timing of Easter. Everybody has their own ability to think about it. But I'm proud of Steph Curry. I believe that more athletes and sports owners, we don't have to just wait for our government, because sometimes they're so political, they won't even trust science. Some people still believe the world is flat. Just blame it on the educational system they went to. That's okay. People have their rights to do that. I just want to make sure that people know that conscientious athletes, they're actually deserving of listening to. People were saying, where's Tom Brady going to go? I can't believe the New England Patriots didn't keep Tom Brady. Tom Brady's not on talking to Dr. Fauci so that people can follow him and maybe learn how to keep their family safe, keep their grandparents safe, their parents safe. Not knocking them, but quit giving people a claim who don't earn it. There's a lot of people with a bigger platform than Big C Sports. And I know the universe knows the truth. History will judge all of us by what we did to make the world better, not how much money was in our pocket. So I just want to close out by saying people should Google that And when you watch the conversation, you would think you're watching Big C Sports on Instagram, talking to Dr. Fauci. Because our platform, and Big C knows, and I really appreciate the way we do it, we've been talking about these platforms for a long time. And it's not something new for us, and that's important. It's not unreasonable of an assumption, but you don't want to count on it that we'll be getting out of this very, very soon. We hope to, but it's got to trust medical science. People on social media were grateful to Stephen Curry for using his influential platform to have a scientific discussion. And some people don't like the political agenda, and that's their choice too. Some people like coffee with cream and sugar, others like it black. I tend to like it both, depending on my mood, so it's all fair and love and war. But I just wanted to bring that up because it's so, to me, I enjoy when I don't feel like I'm on an island by myself. Because some people tell me, man, I tuned into your program and all you did was talk about how to get people to read more and to Google things about how to keep their family safe. I know every sports fan that's sitting down watching TV or listening to whatever they listen to, whether it's Big C Sports or Steph Curry or Dr. Fauci or President Obama or POTUS, whoever it is, they still need information that's going to keep their family safe. I just applaud that conversation they had this morning. Trust your public health professionals. They appreciated what Dr. Fauci is doing with his non-traditional platforms to provide information to a younger audience. So Steph Curry, to me, that's a three-point play. To me, that really was a three-point play, and I'm proud of it for doing that. And people can go on and find out more about that. Today, coronavirus, Boston, Massachusetts. My goodness, 150 hospital workers have tested positive for the COVID-19 virus. So the Red Sox and the swinging of the bat can wait opening day. I know a lot of people in Boston, they love going to Fenway Park. And I want to talk about something, too, that happened today. Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred says he's talking with government officials and infectious disease agencies and even some politicians. They got to pay attention to the mayors of different cities about the date and time that Major League Baseball will begin. You know, we all want to hear it. Scores 5-4, bottom of the ninth. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, a home run. We all want to hear that, and we want to hear the crowd go nuts. That's important. But when I hear Commissioner Manfred talking about what's important in keeping people safe, to me, that was very, I want to hear that. That to me is more important than showing replays of games from 20 and 30 years ago. But people do what they want to do. Major League Baseball pledges $30 million to support the ballpark employees. He was also talking with the NBA 76ers owner, Michael Rubin, who has a foundation also. I think it's called Executive Fanatics. They're doing something that's so beautiful. And believe it or not, again, this is why I'm saying that Big C Sports should be that next multi-million-dollar endorsement package that media companies are getting, and they're taking your money and they're playing your replays as opposed to giving you facts that could keep your family safe. They're using jerseys to make hospital garb and masks to help deal with containing the coronavirus. You know, there's masks that are out there that hospitals need, and for some reason the federal government can't seem to get it to everybody. So listen to this. I've always told that Big C Sports will actually, it will bring people together. And you have sports teams now that are taking their time and using their equipment and their resources and their influence to create a solution for everybody. That means our grandparents. That means our parents. That means our families, our children. It even means us. I applaud that. I know that some people don't want to hear that. They just want to know, man, I'm so sad that baseball can't happen today. I was really looking forward to going to the game with my friends, and now they're telling me I can't go to the game. Some guys don't read. They've told people to lock it down. It'll be back in time, but we got to wait for science. And I love the fact that you have smart people who are doing whatever they can to make sure that they get the word out. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. When we come back, I want to just say at Chavez Ravine Dodger Stadium, on the scoreboard, there's a sign, it says 76. Like 76 gas stations. Those are run by oil companies. What if the oil companies could do what the athletes are doing, and some of these owners, the prescient ones that own sports teams, and many of our prescient, intelligent governors around this country, and scientists and medical experts, and what if they could put some more money behind the research in getting these ventilators that hospitals need? You know, oil companies make billions of dollars. They pollute the air. They may as well help us try to save lives. That's real talk. We'll take the Big C timeout, also known as the Big C pause, and we'll be back in just a moment. We are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on an app that I love called Google or Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic from 3,000 miles away, and he'll do his thing, and I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate the way things are growing. Also, I want to just say I'm very proud that we are launching a real estate listing channel in the spring of 2020. I know everything that's going on with governors telling people stay home, so we're very sensitive to that timeline. That's why we're telling, if you're a real estate person, if you want to put properties for sale or do refinancing, you could do it online with a cloud-based business. That way you're not doing open houses and shaking a lot of hands. It's just my opinion, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. McDonald's does it. Your car that you're driving right now, that dealership's on TV. Sports teams, they're on TV too. Our radio, our podcast, you can do the same thing. We're looking to get 100 real estate brokers to list their properties on TV. We can even do loans, purchase money loans, refinance loans. That's part of the e-commerce with Big C Sports, and you can do that in the cloud. What's with the $2 trillion coronavirus stimulus bill that Steph Curry was talking about, President Obama was talking about, Dr. Tony Fauci was talking about it too. Big C and I have been talking about it a long time. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi. It's all fair and love and war. Even POTUS, Steve Mnuchin, everybody that is really at the top of the food chain, and they're not just wanting to see what replay they're going to watch now on some program that's getting money from sponsors, and they're stealing money because they're not telling you things that keep you or your kids safe. And history will judge all of us. Congressional lawmakers, they put the finishing touches on a $2 trillion stimulus bill. The total bill would be about $6 trillion, but it's going to roll out in phases, just like a hockey. They have first, second, and third periods in hockey. They're doing the same thing with this stimulus bill to respond to the coronavirus pandemic with cash and assistance for regular Americans, Main Street businesses, and hard-hit airlines and manufacturers are among others. People got to know this. I know you can go back and watch, some game. I was watching a program early this morning, and they had a former, athlete calling to the show. His phone was all static and breaking up, and it was like, I played back, I love scoring. Okay, it wasn't even that appealing. They could have been spending that time keeping people alive. The hardest hit region in the United States of America is the East Coast. That's the New York region. From Bristol, Connecticut to New York City can't be more than an hour's drive with, decent traffic. And a lot of our sports brethren who've taken the millions of dollars from sponsors and they're giving you replays and having guys that played 40 years ago call in and talk about how good they were, and there are people dying that they need to hear the message. Is we get enough smart people. We don't ask everybody, just enough smart people to talk and help our governors and even help the White House in medical science by listening to medical science, listening to medical doctors, and then we have to take the time to just get that message out there, like Walter Cronkite, just the facts. So the Senate passed the bill, 96-0 vote, and the House is set to follow suit on Friday, which is tomorrow. And there are reporters throughout the legislation, and they were talking about some of the highlights in the bill, and people can go and find out more about it. I think it's important. I'm going to just do my part on Big C Sports and bring it to you. You don't have to wait until you get home. You can listen to it now. Under the plan, it's being negotiated still. Single Americans would receive $1,200 Married couples would receive $2,400. Parents would also receive $500 for each child under 17. However, the payments would start to phase out for individuals with adjusted gross incomes of more than $75,000. Those making more than $99,000 would not qualify at all. So you really got to learn to live within your means. But if you can't live on $100,000, you got bigger issues. And that threshold doubles for couples, so that's about $198,000. This is important too. Our politicians always say we need free education, free health care. So even as the current administration with Senator Mitch McConnell, and he's Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and POTUS, they're already trying to disband Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. Is people need to be able to see a doctor. With the Affordable Care Act, it's not perfect, but we can always make it better. Like to form a more perfect union, in the bill, the Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, you cannot exclude people with pre-existing conditions. You don't think anybody's going to get through without some type of condition, with half of the country maybe on lockdown soon? The Department of Education would suspend payments on student loans and borrowers without penalty through September 30, according to the bill. And there's some news companies that report, one came from CNN, reported that the Department of Education was planning to allow students and student loan borrowers to suspend payments without penalty and accruing interest for at least 60 days. That's important. We all got to know that. There's also some things in there about Real ID and how the deadline to obtain a Real ID, federally mandated identification that will be needed for passengers to board an aircraft, that's going to be extended until at least September 2021. That's a year past the current deadline. Just like the Olympics, they're going to push it back. They're doing the pause. They're doing the Big C pause, Big C. But that's important. I'm very passionate about doing what I can to make sure that people are up to date on things. And I know that sometimes people don't read. But for anyone that says, I can't believe you guys talk about sports and politics. And then Steph Curry, the only unanimous NBA MVP in the history of the universe, the only one. He's smart enough to know that his family's worth more than watching old replays of basketball games played 20 and 30 years ago. He's smarter than that. Like we say, we don't need everybody. We just need a few smart people. When smart people talk, things happen for everybody. I love listening to the doctors. So everybody can talk about what they need. You can go on and read that bill. There's a historic boost in unemployment benefits. In an unprecedented expansion of unemployment insurance, the federal government would give jobless workers an extra $600 a week for 4 months. It's not forever. It's to help people get over the hump. We all need a bridge to cross, like crossing the Golden Gate Bridge and the Berry Bridge in the Bay Area. Everybody needs to cross it at a time, unless you want to go down to San Mateo, and that's a little bit further south. But it's all fair and love and war. On top of their state benefits that comes, that extra $600, which range from $200 to $550 a week on average, depending on the state. In addition, this is why I'm proud of what's going on right now in our nation's capital. They're not sitting down watching replays. They're not playing sagas of the O.J. Simpson saga. They're not telling you who was a better basketball player from back in the day. When the house is burning, they're trying to put the fire out. It benefits everybody. In addition, lawmakers want to add up to 13 weeks of extended benefits, which will be fully covered by the federal government. Currently, state unemployment checks last up to between 12 weeks and 28 weeks, depending on the state. Your kids do a better job learning when they have food in their belly, not when they're watching the 15th rerun of the O.J. Simpson saga on a sports show that's supposed to be enlightening people about real matters. I mean, maybe they don't have the ability. That's their choice too. But I love the fact that I feel vindicated, Big C, because we've been talking like this for a long time, with a lot of sometimes ridicule. But that's okay. People can ridicule all they want. I just want to make sure that we do our part to keep people informed that sports is a way to galvanize our whole society. I'm going to do the best I can to make sure that we keep doing that. $500 billion in lending programs. The Treasury Department can provide $500 billion with a B in loans. $500 billion is a lot of money in loan guarantees and investments. That specifically includes $25 billion for passengers or air carriers, $4 billion for cargo air carriers, $17 billion for businesses that work in national security. The rest of the funds, $454 billion, are given wide latitude to provide loans to businesses in states and municipalities. The measure includes restrictions on businesses who receive the loans. Those businesses may not issue dividends for up to a year after the loan is no longer outstanding, and must retain 90% employment levels as of March 24th. It was shooting for 100, but 90 is close. I mean, if you bat 90% on a baseball team, you're a multi Hall of Fame. If you shoot 90% from the free throw line, you're a pretty solid free throw shooter. I think Steph Curry shoots over 90% from the free throw line. It's amazing how the universe lines things up. So we want to make sure that people understand that, and this is going to be, they're just expecting to extend this. So maybe through September 30th. The loans also cannot last longer than 5 years. Now, there's a specific provision in the program for direct loans to mid-sized businesses defined as between 500 and 10,000 employees, as well as nonprofit organizations. There are no payments that will be due for the first 6 months after the loan is issued, and the Congressional Oversight Committee will monitor the money. That's important. For those of you who think POTUS is in it for himself, and maybe he is, the Trump businesses cannot get money. You know how his daddy gave him a lot of money to get him started out? He got a bailout too from his father. He hasn't opened his tax returns, but still, the Trump business cannot get money. The legislation prohibits federal elected officials, that's part of the emoluments clause, to profit from government money, and their immediate relatives, that's his family, from obtaining funds, the $500 billion program. Again, this is the same POTUS that was part of the Central Park 5. You know, you got to bring that up too. People can atone, but he can't. I mean, that's important. It hurt a lot of people. He was also part of Stop and Frisk with Mayor Bloomberg, which hurt a lot of people that look like me. So businesses that are owned or partly owned by the president, the vice president, and the head of an executive department, or a member of Congress and the spouse, child, son-in-law, or daughter-in-law, they will be barred, and provisions apply to anyone with 20% or greater stake in a business. That's just important. This is also important for the xenophobic people in this country. There's no money for border walls, okay, trying to separate what he called the brown menace or the S-hole countries. He said that too. The same boy who cried wolf and said this was a Democratic host. The first phase of $2 trillion, which we combined $6 trillion, is issued. No money for the border wall. That means they're trying to end discrimination when it comes to that. They're not trying to keep white people from coming from Europe. There are more people infected in Europe than there are in Mexico. So what are you building the wall for? The Defense Department will get $1.2 billion for the National Guard's coronavirus response. Over 10,000 National Guard members to date have been activated. An additional $1 billion is available for Defense Act purchases. I mean, it's all important. Airlines will get some help. The package includes $32 billion for that, grants and wages and benefits to the decimated airline industry. We all want to fly the friendly skies. That's how we get around. That's how our sports teams get around. When you fly from one destination to the next, you want to make sure you get there safely. If we're cutting back on the people who help keep our airlines safe, that makes it more difficult for a lot of people flying. We want to make sure that we do our part too. Just making sure that people understand that it's all fair. It's all fair in love and war, and we'll do what we can to keep everybody flying the friendly skies. In addition, another $25 billion for passenger airlines and $4 billion for cargo airlines will be available in the form of loans and guarantees. Companies that receive the assistance, they are barred from making furloughs of their employees. They cannot make pay cuts or stock buybacks from using or issuing dividends to investors through September. It also institutes limits on executive compensation. You know, some executives on Wall Street make $20 million a year. A lot of those guys worked at the banks that foreclosed on homeowners. Think about this. Just be careful when they're saying you don't have to pay your mortgage. I think Bank of America's out there, Wells Fargo, Citi, JP Morgan Chase. Check with your service provider to make sure that they actually are going to waive your mortgage payments. This is more important as we talk about hospitals needing help. Hospitals get billions in stimulus package. They will provide about $117 billion for hospitals, according to an estimate from the American Hospital Association, which called it an important first step. The bill creates $100 billion in public health and social emergency funds to reimburse providers for expenses and lost revenues according to coronavirus pandemic. About $65 billion will go to the hospitals. The rest is funneled to doctors, nurses, and suppliers and other associated. There's 39 doctors that passed away from coronavirus in Italy. There's 150 staff that were affected in hospitals in Boston. They need the help. You know, you have Major League Baseball teams that are doing their part to take uniforms and make equipment like breathing apparatus and masks to keep people safe, part of hospital garb. I really appreciate that. The American Hospital Association, which we all need to pay attention to, especially as the White House is trying to defund Obamacare. The American Hospital Association, along with the American Medical Association and the American Nurses Association, had asked Congress to provide $100 billion healthcare personnel and providers address the outbreak. That's important. We got to have people take care of that. You know what? Next time you want to ride Uber or Lyft, the gig workers, independent contractors, and so-called gig workers will be eligible to receive federal aid. And the language could provide certainly into millions of part-time workers who drive Uber or Lyft, or people who work for Amazon or other companies, and would become a major part of the digital economy. So we know everybody has their own opinion about this package, whether it's good or bad for the country. I think is amazing for the country. It has to be. People got to understand that. The United States military is also affected by the coronavirus outbreak. There was one U.S. aircraft carrier that had 8 cases of testing positive for coronavirus. 8 cases. And we're actually asking for people to help the military because the military helps us. They keep us safe. But who's going to help them? Whether it's the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, the Army, or the Coast Guard. That's very important. We all need to pitch in and do our part, even if our part is just about making sure that people understand what's going on in this great country of ours. I want to make sure we do our part with Big C Sports. A little bit of sad news. Harlem Globetrotter legend Curly Neal passed away today. He was 77 years old. A magician on the basketball court. He brought so many smiles to thousands of fans, and I'm sure he will be missed. But he made a lot of people happy. I mean, everybody, we all have to, it's how we live, not how long we live. There's a lot of people with billions of dollars, and they are only in it for themselves. I've even heard people on radio shows saying, I can't believe we're giving a stimulus bill to help people. I mean, what kind of person would say that? And they're still getting paid? Let them get sick. They're the first ones calling 911. Bicycle racing in Paris, Tour de France, still getting set to race on time. That's what they're trying to do. I guess they haven't been paying attention to what's going on. They're still holding out. They've yet to postpone it amid the virus outbreak that has affected a lot of people around the globe. I mean, everybody has their own thoughts. But now, for now, at least the start date remains June 27th. There is a possibility that the race could be held without any fans lining the course. And when you think about how beautiful it is for guys going out, riding bicycles, this year's race has 21 stages. Traditionally, fans stand watching along the way, and the longest is about a 135-mile stretch. Thousands of people are attending those events, but maybe they'll be kept away. But there will be thousands of police officers needed to keep the crowds under control. I don't know what's going to happen. They haven't called it off yet. They're still trying to figure out if they're going to do it or not. And so everybody knows we've had organizers of Wimbledon. They're going to meet next week to decide on this year's tennis tournament, scheduled for June 29th through July 12th. The French Open, normally in late May and June, is pushed back to September 20th to October 4th. So everybody has to just think about what's important. The last time the tour was not held was in 1946, and the nation was emerging from the Second World War. It also stopped during World War I. So everybody, just keep informed about what Dr. Fauci talked about. Your health over money, or health over whatever's going on, in your life. We got to make sure we do what we can to keep people safe. Indianapolis 500. People love fast cars, Big C. They love the cars with the 1,000 horsepower or whatever they carry now. But they postponed that until August 19th because of COVID-19. It's postponed today until August of 2020. I mean, I think that's a good move. Everybody wants to see cars race around the track, Big C. But you gotta keep safe. The fans and the people who are racing these cars. The Indianapolis 500, it began in 1911. It did not run in 1917, 1918, and from 1941 to 1945 because of World Wars I and II. So everybody knows that this part of an American, pastime, Indy 500. It returned Memorial Day weekend in 1946, and it's a fixture in American society. We all love it. We all love the untold millions of fans over the world that love racing and love NASCAR and Indy cars, but they're also doing what it takes to keep people safe. I think about guys like that go out and they tune up their own car, they go down to AutoZone and they try to fix it up to make the car run faster. But when you have people that do it for a living, a lot of people that look up to you, they're gonna take your stance, and they're gonna see if they can keep their families informed also. And it's important that we do our part. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Speaker.com. The app that I love is by Google. And Alexa, just say Google. Or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear Welcome to the Show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic from 3,000 miles away, and he'll do his thing, and I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Really appreciate that. Also proud to say launching a real estate listing channel in the spring of 2020. Goal is simple. Recruit 100 real estate brokers. List your properties on the Big C listing channel. We can also do your loans from purchase money loans, refinance loans. We'll be launching that soon. And McDonald's advertises on TV. Car dealerships advertise on TV. Sports companies, just like Big C Sports, we want to bring that to you. Put your properties on TV, and it stands out. And you also don't have to do the open houses if we can just get your property listing to show. And the benefit is you don't only have to show the area that may be 3 or 4 miles around the radius of that property. If it's on television, you have people that can see it from sometime up to 100 miles away. They may want to move to your location. You get that with the Big C team. You don't get that knocking on doors. NASCAR orders pay cuts for employees of the racing series. Charlotte, North Carolina. NASCAR informed its staff Tuesday that pay cuts will be imposed across the company until the series returns to racing. NASCAR President Steve Phelps announced in the move in a memo to employees, a copy of which was obtained by the Associated Press from a person who requested anonymity. That means he wanted to keep it secret so people wouldn't know who he was. Think about this. The memo said in a series of executives, including the president of NASCAR that own tracks, they will see a 25% reduction in salary, while all other employees will have their salary reduced by 20%. What a heart! You want to take people in the trying of times when a lot of states are saying don't go to work right now, and they want to make sure that those people lose money and pay. Maybe that's part of that stimulus package will help them. I know everybody has their own thoughts, but NASCAR was 4 races into the season, the longest sport in almost 11 months, when the coronavirus broke out and brought the series to what's called the Big C pause. I know everybody has their own thoughts. Think about money or health. Tokyo Olympics looking for a new date for opening and closing games. They have postponed it for the 2020 Olympics, and they're looking at pushing it off for a year. I mean, money's important too, but it's a multi-billion-dollar price tag that they're losing because people are smart enough not to risk their health for money. People are smart enough not to risk their health for money, unless you believe this is a Democratic host. It never has been. I know everybody has their own thought about sports and politics and what they want to hear and what they don't want to hear. NCAA sports, March Madness, they're slashing payouts of $375 million due to coronavirus. That means they're taking away some money that they were going to pay out. And I understand they got to balance the books, but they were pushing so hard to get this free labor from athletes, and now $375 million is a lot to withhold as opposed to paying it out, as a lot of people are still trying to figure out how do we keep everybody safe and keep them going strong, especially in this pandemic. And it's always important. The NCAA will distribute about $225 million to its Division I members in June. a whopping $375 million less than it had budgeted after the coronavirus pandemic forced the cancellation of big money and men's basketball tournament of the free labor. Think about it. That's important. You guys got to make sure we keep our kids safe. The NCAA had been scheduled to distribute about $600 million to more than 300 Division I schools from April to June. Instead, it will hand out far less. And I know everybody has their own beliefs and why or why not. I just want to, as we always say, Google science, Google math, listen to the doctors. Listen to the Steph Curry interview this morning with Dr. Fauci. President Obama also chimed in, and Big C Sports has been doing this platform for 5 years. I'm just honored that the universe decided to have some of the world's greatest athletes take on the same platform we're doing. That's why Big C Sports deserves to be that next multi-billion-dollar sponsor that get that sponsorship. We're not playing your replays. We're not doing that. We're giving you real stuff. It's fresh. Today's show is actually on March 26, 2020. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Bourdini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe? And I'm going to say, I hope that the Senate has already done their part. Now we're waiting on the House and POTUS to sign that coronavirus stimulus package. Got to put people back to work. You got to give people money in their pockets so you can put food in the belly of your children. When you can eat, you can think. And when you can think, you can get a great education. If you don't have that, then we're all lost. I really appreciate the platform. I really appreciate the opportunity to bring you Big C Sports. I'm looking forward to tremendous growth as we go forward into the sports universe, bringing you things that will be emulated and followed by other programs. When you're talking about sponsorship, history will tell you if you did the right thing by the money you sponsor programs. It's important. We deserve it. I want to do good work. Verify everything we say. You can Google it. Google everything. Google everybody and make sure that whatever we do, that we leave a legacy in this planet so we can make it safe for all people, no matter what color, no matter what gender. I'm still asking for 1 million pastors around the world to pray for God's providence to find a cure or a treatment for this coronavirus, because we got to keep people safe. I know you want to see the game, and we love the game too, but it's hard to play the game when you're not healthy. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on so many platforms. And as we always tell you, it's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.